Hey guys, Jeffrey with Colorado Mountain Man Survival. Today we're going to be doing our first video in our Campfire cooking series. So this is going to focus on kind of duplicating the kind of things that you can make when you're in a survival situation, a stew like we're going to do tonight, or just cooking when you're in the backcountry with your friends. We're going to be using our most favorite cooking device in the backcountry, the Dutch oven. So stick around and I'll show you how we make some Texas red chili. Alright, so Texas red chili. There's all kinds of chilies out there, but Texas red is very, very specific. So first off, it uses big chunks of meat. I'm also going to use some ground meat in this one. That's just how I modify it a little bit. But another huge thing, no beans in Texas red chili. Totally unacceptable. I use beans in other chilies, but Texas red is a no bean chili. So essentially what we do with making this Texas red is that they'll take these dried peppers, they'll rehydrate them, scrape the outside out, blend them up and make a puree, slowly cook that all day long. Then when they're ready to start the meat, they'll get the chunks of meat, they'll sear it. So when we sear it, we're going to brown the meat, not gray it, not get it a little bit gray or slightly pink, but brown that meat. It's called the Maillard reaction. Heat turns protein into glucose. Google it, it's pretty complicated. But when it does that, it makes a water-soluble, really flavorful taste of grilled meat. So the first thing we're going to do is get the chunks of meat and we're going to sear it until it's nice and brown. Again, when I say brown, you want it nice and brown, just this side of burned. After we do that, we're going to take all of our, if we were making this the authentic way, we'd be having peppers cooking all day long. For this, we got a little combination of things we're going to put in there. We're going to mix all that together. So we've got the beef that's been seared, nice and hot. Then we're going to put it in with a lot of this liquid stuff, with some vegetables, got some mushrooms here and some spinach, and we're going to let that slowly cook for a number of hours. It's going to take those tough chunks of stew meat and break those fibers down and give us a nice, really nice, tender, chewy piece of meat that's going to be coated in a thick, red, spicy sauce. So stick around and I'll show you how we do all this. Alright guys, so one of the first things you want to do is to get your cast iron really, really hot. The point of this is that as soon as this meat touches it, it starts to sizzle and cook. As I said, Google that Maillard reaction, but when it browns meat, it turns that protein into a really, really good flavoring, or good tasting sugar. So we're going to get this nice and hot. We're using cubed meat, like I said. There's a few reasons that we're doing this as our first one. I believe that stews are really, really efficient if you're in the backcountry in a survival situation, for preserving all the calories, mixing everything that you've gathered for the day, cooking it all together and getting the flavor together. And this is also one of the things that we do. So starting in 2018, almost all of our classes, and check the description, are going to include food. We believe that cooking over a campfire with Dutch oven, or even a camp cup or aluminum foil, it's an important skill to have as an outdoorsman. So when you come out here for the vast majority of the classes, 5 days, things like that, we're going to have you help with breakfast and dinner. It goes really, really quickly, but we're going to make things that can be made in the Dutch oven really, really quickly, and it's a great skill to have. When you leave, you're going to know how to make 10 or 15 different things over the Dutch oven: desserts, breads, chilies, stews, all kinds of really good stuff. So, all right, so this is heating up right now. I can get my hand right there, so it's definitely not hot enough. Even though we're browning meat, it's very, very lean, so it can definitely burn. So we're going to let this slowly heat up, and I'll get back at you when the Dutch oven's hot. Alright, so the cast iron is heated up to the point where we put water on there and it automatically sizzles on there and kind of dances on there. It's temperature you want for meat, pancakes, things like that. So when I talked about it earlier, making a stew, when you think about your survival situation, obviously we have beef from the store. I'd love to go out and pop one of these elk, but it's not really seasoned, and that's just the best we're going to be able to do today is some beef. But in a real survival situation, you might have a possum or a raccoon or both, and a squirrel, and then a whole bunch of stuff that you gathered that day. And you really want to make sure that what you're eating is safe. So when you make a stew, you're going to sear it and cook it. Then you're going to boil it for a long time. So you're going to kill anything on the outside and then slowly cook it to kill anything that could be growing on the inside. So let's just see if this is hot enough yet. No. Alright, so I'll heat that just a little bit more here. So we've got this nice and hot. We put a few tester pieces in there. It's nice and hot. You can hear it sizzle. Need to put it in there. I'm just going to see if I can do this without burning myself and get all these pieces in here. You don't want to overcrowd this, and you don't want to start by putting a lot of fat in there. You want them to be really, really exposed, a lot of their surface area exposed to that really, really hot cast iron, so you can sear that meat. And searing and browning, like I said, you don't want to gray the meat, you want to brown it. So we're really going to let this stuff cook in there. You can hear that wonderful sound of that searing off. So get all those pieces in there, and just put a little stir on it. You can see some of these pieces are starting to brown already, and we're going to let it sit for a little bit, brown and stir it, and get as much of it browned off as we can without burning anything, ideally. Once that happens, we'll have some more ingredients to put in there that'll add some moisture to it. Alright, been about 15 minutes now, and you can see maybe that seam, it's a little hard to see. When you look down there, you see there's some pieces that have a little bit of black crust on there, but the vast majority of them have that browning on there. That browning is what gives us that flavor, and it just is cooking really on its own heat. There's not even a lot of fat in there to really be frying it. So, looks pretty good, a lot of brown. So the next two things we're going to add, onions and celery. I modify mine a little bit, and I'm going to add some ground meat, but I'm still going to add this first because I want this to cook the same way without any fat in there, really, or just a little bit that's in there. So, 2 big onions. And then for the garlic, I'd say probably like just about this much.
What? That's a weird looking celery.
Garlic. What did I say? Garlic or celery?
No, you said garlic.
All right, we're going to see. Everybody watching at home, you're going to see in a few minutes here what I said. We're going to verify it.
I swear
The garlic and onions there.
I swear you said garlic.
All right, let's see here. So, same thing, a lot of heat. Want it to really take some of that heat on there and brown some. And the little bit of moisture that's going to contribute as it heats is just going to deglaze all that awesomeness that cooked on the meat. So, going to let that go for a little bit. Then we're going to come back. I'm going to add the ground meat, which again is heresy in Texas, but we're in Colorado, just how it is. And then we'll go from there. So this smells great right now. You're missing out at home, I promise. All right, so you can see how much that has reduced. So not only has it reduced, but those onions are becoming translucent and well, I was going to say translucent and clear, but it's the same thing. So they're becoming both translucent and clear. But really, that means that it's caramelizing and they're cooking. Just like the Maillard reaction, cooking over heat changes the structure of some of the chemicals in the onions. It makes it a much more rich sugar kind of flavor. So this is the part where if you're from Texas, I apologize. You might want to turn away from just a minute. It's not beans. It's not that bad, but we are going to put some ground meat in here. So there's some sausage. Whew. All right, we have to fix that. Oh my God.
All right, so Jeff is cleaning up that piece of meat that you dropped on the ground. We're stirring that meat that's in there. But we're gonna be using tomatoes and onions and mushrooms and stuff that we got from the supermarket. But switch hands here. A little bit better. So if you're out here in the wild, you're not gonna be able to come out here and find cans of tomatoes from the nice tomato tree. So what can you use as wild edibles for your stews? At this elevation, we're about 9,500 feet. Our options, our choices of wild edibles aren't quite as good as lower elevations, but we have stinging nettle. We've got wild onion. You can get wild garlic. There is certain, depending on the time of year, we've got fireweed. Even the pine trees, you know, vitamin C, really not much you want to put in a stew, but vitamin C, keep away scurvy. What else do we got? Not too much at this elevation, but stinging nettle, wild onion, And fireweed are something that does grow up here, and I see it quite a bit. We do have curly dock. That's all I can think of for right now. But you know, in the meat, we got rabbits, we got squirrel, we've got deer, we've got elk, we've got coyote. You can eat coyote. We've got bobcat, mountain lion. I hear that mountain lion, I've not tried it myself, but it's one of the best tasting meats. Obviously, it's not hunt season, so we can't go out there and shoot whatever we want. Laws that keep us doing that, so we just use the food, the meats that we can at this point. But the nice thing Jeff said about stews is all the nutrients, everything, all the fats, everything that's in the food that you're cooking boils down into the broth, and you're not losing any nutrients whatsoever. Everything is in that water. A stew is one of your best options for survival situation. But I'll quit talking for now. We're gonna go back over here and check out what Jeff's got going on.
All right, so for the rest of it here, we're going to add, like I said, you'd have traditionally you'd have all this stuff slow cooking together all day long, all of your seasonings, tomatoes, peppers, everything, and you make a paste out of it, and then you'd add it in with the meat, and then slow cook it for a while. So we're in the backcountry, so do what we can. So we try to add some more vegetables to get a little bit more health, minerals, vitamins, whatever. So we've got some mushrooms we're going to add, and then instead of using a slow cooked sauce all day long, we've got canned tomatoes with habanero, some tomato paste. Very, very important to use tomato paste to make it thicken up at the end, so it's like just coated in this flavorful red paste. Bunch of diced tomatoes. The vast majority of this stuff, after it slow cooks for that long, is just going to break down, and we're going to have a red paste covering some of the meat, the mushrooms, and the celery. The meat, the mushrooms, and the big chunks of onions in there. So let's just start adding this stuff to it and see how it looks. Okay. All right. So one of the things we're adding here is some green leaf spinach, the baby spinach, a little bit frozen there, but it doesn't really matter. Up here, instead of spinach greens, you could have dandelions. As Jason mentioned, stinging nettles, mustards, things like that. I like putting this in here. First off, because you're at survival camp and it's easy to not get the amount of fiber and vegetables that you need. So I just put that in there, and it all cooks down. You can't really tell it's in there, and it gives a bit of fiber, and I think it tastes pretty good. All right, so we're adding some sliced up store-bought mushrooms here. White button, also the Agaricus bisporus mushroom. It seems like every book about wild edibles and survival says if you're not 100% sure about what it is, and don't eat it if it's a mushroom, it could kill you. Definitely true. Don't eat anything that you're not sure of. So there's a lot of really identifiable mushrooms up at this elevation. We've got the king bolete, some of the edible amanitas, some morels, even at this elevation that they do grow in Colorado. But learn about fungus, because it's a really cool thing to do, and you can see like the hawkswing fungus. You can find tons of that and add it to your meals as well. So, but for this one, white button mushrooms. All right, so this is just some obviously store-bought chili powder, but whatever you have, whatever you like. I know this doesn't have any sugar or salt in there, that's why I like it. But whatever kind of blend that you have, as I said, if you're doing this the authentic way, you'll buy dried peppers, rehydrate them, scrape the burn out of them, puree them, and use those. But this works pretty well for backcountry stuff right here. So I'll mix all this up. You can see a lot of that spinach, because of the heat, is just melting away really. So once we get the final product and slow cooked for a little bit, you want to be able to see much of that spinach, but it will still have the health benefits of it. Extreme close up. So, all right, so you can see how cold it is up here. I opened these a few minutes ago, and it's already freezing on there. So if there's anything that I'm doing where you say I'm cutting any corners by not making it from fresh pepper as well, it's like 10 degrees out here, so give me a little bit of slack here. So diced tomatoes with green chilies, got a couple cans of those. And again, as I said, the tomato paste, one of the most important things, because it really thickens everything up in there. All right, well, there you have everything combined. So we started off, we browned off that meat, added the onions, garlic, no celery, put the ground meat in there, stirred it up a bunch. Now we've got it all in here, and the most important ingredient that we're going to add now is thyme. So we're going to let this slowly simmer. You want it just a little bit below a boil when you look it up, when you open the top, which means it's going to be boiling down here. In a survival situation, you'd be making sure to be killing any nasty stuff that could be on there. It wouldn't kill a poison, but it would kill if there was some bacteria or something on there. So it's all covered up. Let's put this lid on here. Had some problems with this lid recently. Right, there we go. So nice tight seal, low heat, low and slow. That's really the criterion for good chili. We're going to come back in a little bit. All the big chunks of beef are going to be just tender, or fork tender. All the tomatoes and everything will just have dissolved in this beautiful, flavorful, thick paste sauce covering it. So, yeah. Stay tuned. All right, so you can see here we're about 25 minutes into it. That red color has really dissipated. The tomatoes, a lot of those used to be chunks, are now just turned into this liquid paste. You can still see some of the spinach in there, but it's definitely not burning to the bottom. Nice slow cooking. All these little bubbles coming to the top here. It's exactly where you want it. Nice low simmer. So we'll cover that up. Let it cook a little bit more. You want to take it off and... Oh, is it recording?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you can see this is after 2 hours of simmering. Nice and slow. The red sauce everywhere on there. It's really, really tender. The big chunks of meat that are in there are super tender. We've been stirring it frequently. We know it's not burned to the bottom. So I guess that means it's time to eat.
Pizza insurance. Heard that.
Oh, it's a bit on there. Oh, is that on? Okay, that is the angle I was looking at. Yeah, there we go. Right, pretty good.
That looks pretty good.
So you can see red sauce, kind of cooked into a paste. There's some big chunks in there because I added some of those vegetables. But that red paste is just all over those chunks and that ground meat. So there you go.
Let's eat. Don't put that lid on.
You have to let it sit for 45 minutes now.
Yeah.
Age.
I will eat you.
In 45 minutes, yeah, you might not be here.